The system utilization report is designed to give you an idea of how heavily the SyncTimes solution is being used at your health center. The reason we made this is because we have noticed a direct correlation between health centers who actively use the system to communicate on a clinical level and also to use it for reporting purposes. These health centers that use the system more effectively typically have better results in cycle times, and these reduced cycle times typically lead to increased patient satisfaction and retention. There are two sections in this report. First is icons selected per patient, meaning for every patient that's entered into an exam room using the SyncTime solution, this is the average number of icons used by clinical staff to communicate with each other what is happening or what is needed for the patient. The second section is badges per patient, or in other words, the average amount of times that clinical staff enter the room to see the patient. So if we hover over a bar in this graph here, we can see the details. During this month, we see that average icons per patient over these 5 departments is 2.2. But if we look down here, we can see that there's a large spread of different icon utilizations over these 5 departments. So site number 23 uses on average 2.35 icons per patient, whereas site number 21 typically uses 1.08 icons per patient. Now, depending on the practice and on the health center and on the department, different icons will be used and at different frequencies. So there's no hard number here of what this should be, but we typically aim to have at least 1.5 icons used per patient to effectively communicate at the clinical level at the health center. If icon utilization is very low, like this site here, site number 21, it might be worth brainstorming with clinical staff to see if there are icons that could be added to the system that would increase or improve on their workflows and thus lead to decreased cycle times for the patient. Over here in badges per patient, we have separated this into 2 different sections. Green represents the average number of times that clinical staff badge in, so that's medical assistants or nurses, and then blue is the average number of times that provider badges in per patient. Now, we realize that people are going to forget their badges some days or forget to badge into a room as they walk in sometimes, so we typically set a goal of 80% of badging in for staff and also for providers. So we can look here and see that most of these departments are doing pretty good, just a couple that are below 75%. And when that happens, it can usually be fixed by just reminding clinical staff or providers to badge in as they enter the room. Friendly reminders will usually go a long way there. Up at the top, we have the same information just displayed as a line graph. And then, as with all other reports, we can sort, filter by using these drop-down menus here on the side and these buttons in order to see in a little bit more detail what exactly is going on. That concludes this brief tutorial on the system utilization report. Please reach out to us for a more in-depth look at it or if you have any questions.